So when I look across many of the reviews and criticisms for Captain America Civil War, many people seem to agree that this is probably one of their favorite Marvel films because of the implications and the future. Now there is a small minority of people that absolutely hate it because they keep saying that the movie did nothing. It's nothing, the Civil War isn't huge, there's nothing happening, there's no consequences, nobody changes, and everybody just remains in place. Whereas to my point, I kind of just scratch my head and really kind of question whether they're watching the same movie or not, or whether they're just trying to troll or they don't understand the implications of the movie. Now what I mean by that is, if this would have been a one and done fight, if they just fight and nothing happens and at the end they're still a team, then essentially you're getting a one issue, you're getting a one shot. But the MCU as a whole so far has been a giant story arc. Each phase consists of a few different issues that all tie into one mega event. It's long form storytelling just like in the comics. And Civil War, for better or for worse, is the first chapter of a much bigger problem that is going to have, its ripples and its effects felt throughout the rest of the MCU. And we've already seen elements of this in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., and of course we're going to keep seeing elements of this down the road. Now, one of the big things that is, of course, the big question is, how far will Civil War reach in the actual movies? Now, during a recent question and answer segment, Joe Russo, who is of course one half of the directors of Captain America Civil War and the upcoming Avengers Infinity War, got asked regarding Civil War, and his reply was, "We always thought of this movie as the start of the war. It's not over yet." Which honestly, I'm kind of surprised that he even had to answer this question, or that, I guess in my mind, I never really thought that people saw this any other way. There was always the implication that this is the start of Civil War, and by the end of the movie, you can tell that there's different factions now. Captain America is no longer Captain America, he's Steve Rogers. He's doing what he believes is right. He's given up being Captain America. And Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., they say he's went AWOL. They don't know where he is. Tony Stark, on the other hand, is now bound to the government. He has to do what they say. He has to follow the Accords. And if he doesn't, he's going to be jailed. And they're going to be looking at other people. The Inhumans are already tied into this, as Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. has mentioned. The Registration Act and everything is affecting them. So the seeds for Civil War were there to plant the start of the war, to plant the separation, to kind of divide you on each side. When we get to Avengers Infinity War, obviously the people that are saying, oh, Civil War is a dumb movie, didn't do anything, has no consequences, clearly aren't thinking of this as an actual first issue of a 3-part arc. Like, when the movie starts, and when Thanos' army or Thanos starts invading or whoever, the Avengers can be called up, but who does Tony Stark have? He doesn't have Ant-Man. He sure as hell isn't going to show up and help him just because. I mean, he was Jim. He doesn't have Falcon, doesn't have Winter Soldier, he doesn't have Scarlet Witch, he doesn't have Captain America, best of all, the guy that is the face of everything. That is Captain America. Captain America, for all intents and purposes, is dead. He died. Steve Rogers is alive, but Captain America is no more. He's not out there running around being that symbol of hope. He doesn't have Hawkeye. There's quite a few characters he's missing on his team. He doesn't have Black Panther because Black Panther is helping Captain America. So he has Spider-Man and Vision and War Machine if he's still capable of doing his job, but he's crippled. So there's a lot of stakes here, and when you think about what they're saying is, yeah, Infinity War is going to roll around, but it doesn't necessarily mean all these characters are going to get along or be friends, or they're just going to reform because they have to. There's going to have to be a major thrust and a major issue that makes them come back together, but you're still going to feel these, when Captain America comes back and he puts back on the costume and he takes the shield, that's going to be a victory moment. That's going to be something important. And that's going to be a moment where the world realizes is we need all of these people, and maybe what they were doing is right, because without them, we're kind of screwed. And that's going to be a moment where Tony Stark looks at Steve Rogers, and Steve looks back at him and goes, even though we're not agreed on this, we have to do this for humanity. It is our end goal to save us, and if we don't put our differences aside for right now, then what are we fighting for? What are we going to fight for? We're going to fight for nothing, because by tomorrow this planet is going to be useless. It's going to be gone. And that's really the thrust of Civil War. The Civil War was there to give you this split. So by the time we get to the next Avengers movie, it's not just, oh, they've been a team for like 8 years and they're just doing the same thing. This puts an actual conflict in the team that we haven't seen before. And that's why Civil War is such an important movie. That's why it's a movie that so many people love. That's why it's a movie that critics love. Because it's based around where these characters were, who they are, their ideologies, where they're coming from, and where they're going. Captain America went from being a soldier who was fighting Hydra to being a soldier who works for Hydra and he didn't know it. And now when everything got flipped upside down, he doesn't know who he can trust. And the one man he thinks he can trust, who is his best friend for all intents and purposes, that's not Winter Soldier, and that's Tony Stark, suddenly goes, you're going to register, you're going to work for this government agency. And he goes, the last time I did that, I was working for Nazis. How can you be sure that there's not an agenda with that? That's a powerful moment, and the fact that Cap is going to have to come back and take up the mantle again, and the fact that Tony is going to have to admit, I need you, is going to be a huge, huge revelation for both characters. And I cannot wait for that. And I understand that some people maybe don't understand what the films are doing, and that's cool. Maybe you're young, I don't know, but hey, it's coming, and I'm glad that, Civil War was the first chapter of this massive war.